In September 2021, the disappearance of a young lady named Gabrielle Venora Petito captured the attention of the entire nation. What started as a missing person case evolved into one of the most high-profile investigations in modern American history. This is a story of love, tragedy, and unanswered questions that continue to haunt us all. Gabrielle Petito was 22 years old, free-spirited blonde woman from Long Island, New York, and with a passion of art, dance, and living her life to the fullest. But her dreams of freedom ended in a desolated canyon in Wyoming, and her partner would vanish, leaving her behind more questions than answers. Gabrielle Venora Petito was born on March 19, 1999. She grew up in Blue Point, Long Island in a loving, close-kin family. Her parents, Joseph and Nicole Petito, along with her siblings, created a home where Gabby felt supported to pursue her passion. She also loved creative art and artistic and magnetic personality that drew people around her. From a very young age, Gabrielle was an artist. She loved to paint, to create, and to express herself through movement and dance. She was a digital content creator, with many known today as influencers. On Instagram, she shared her adventure, her act, and snippets of her life with thousands of followers who loved watching her journey as it unfolded. In 2020, Gabby met Brian Laundrie. He was an attractive, charming, and she shared love of her outdoor. They began dating and they dated in the early 2021. They were inseparable. Brian, who was 4 years older than Gabby, seemed like the perfect partner to explore the world with. Together, they made a plan that they would capture the hearts of their followers across a country van conversion project. The couple purchased a white Ford Transit van, which would carefully renovate into a mobile home. They painted it, outfitted it in a bed, kitchen, and solar panel, and all the amenities needed to live in a road. In July 2021, they embarked on a journey called Van Life, a trip across America. Gabby documented meticulously on Instagram, sharing photos of a stunning landscape, camping, locations, and movements of the apparent happiness. Her followers loved it. Nearly 2,000 people were watching her chronicles, their journey by day and by night. To the outside world, Gabby and Brian's relationship looked perfect, like a fairy tale adventure across America. Beneath the curated photos and video clips, something darker was brewing. On August 12, 2021, in Moab, Utah, something happened that would later become a critical moment in this case. Police responded to a domestic dispute between Gabby and Brian. Witnesses reported seeing them arguing, with Brian allegedly trying to prevent Gabby from getting into the van. Officers arrived and conducted a welfare check. The police reported documents that Gabby was emotional and upset. Brian appeared calmer. The officers separated the two and took statements. In the end, no arrest was made, but the officers urged them to take a space from each other for the night. It was warning and a red flag that unheeded. After the incident, Gabby continued posting on social media, but she looked closely. Her updates became less frequent. The joyous tone of her posts seemed false. Her followers noticed, but assumed that it was simply exhaustion from the travels. The truth was from a grimmer. In weeks following the Moab incident, tension continued to escalate between Gabby and Brian. They argued more frequently. The adventure that had seemed to be magical was beginning to become a fracture. Around August 27, 2021, Gabby called her mother and told her something shocking, something Nicola Petito would later remember with a haunting clarity. Gabby said that Brian had hurt her. She told her mother that he had been beaten on her arm. It was a conversation that revealed a volatile nature of their relationship, and yet Gabby did not file a report. She did not contact the police. She tried to move forward. By early September, The van life adventure was clearly falling apart. Brian and Gabby were in Jackson or Wyoming and arguing frequently. On September 10, 2021, Gabby was last seen leaving a certain restaurant with Jackson Hall. It would be the last time anyone confirmed seeing her alive. What happened next is where the timeline becomes murky, where factors blur with mystery and nothing would ever be the same. Sometimes around September 11, the couple's van returned into a parking location, but Gabby was no longer in it. Brian, however, was. He was alone. Over the next days, something extraordinary happened. Brian Rondre drove back to Florida without his girlfriend. He drove the van and lived in it together across the country, arriving at his parents' home in Northport, Florida, on September 12. When he arrived, he did not report Gabby missing. He did not contact police. He hired a lawyer and he stopped communication. His parents would later claim that they thought he was dealing with a mental health crisis. They did not call authorities to report Gabby missing. Meanwhile, Gabby's parents had no idea where she was. They were trying to reach her. Their calls went unanswered. Their message went unseen. Days passed without contact, something highly unusual for Gabby, who is always kept in touch with her mother and who is always active present on social media, who documented her life constantly. On September 9, 2021, Nicola Petito called the police. She reported her daughter missing. Finally, authorities began investigating. By that point, crucial hours of the day had been lost. A search was launched. The national attention drew towards the case. The hashtag Find Gabby Petito began trending nationwide. News outlets covered the story relentlessly. Thousands of volunteers joined the search. TikTok users became amateur detectives, analyzing the last photos and when it was posted, tracking the van's movement and questioning Brian's timeline. Law enforcement began to look for Brian's laundry for personal interest. They approached his parents' house and the family cooperated. Brian himself had vanished. His parents claimed that they had no idea where he was. Authorities believed that he was hiding. Police began retracing Gabby's and Brian's steps. They found their van and searched it for evidence. They interviewed people who had seen them. They examined Gabby's social media posts and forensic details, looking for clues in timestamps, location, and facial expression that might reveal her state and mind. What emerged was a portrait of a young woman in distress. In some of the last photos she posted, Gabby looked upset or withdrawn. One video, allegedly filmed by Brian, showed the expression frustrating about their situation. Her mother in interviews described her daughter and had mentioned problems in relationship, argued and conflict. Authorities also began examining Brian's action more carefully. Why did he drive back to Florida? Why did he not report Gabby missing? Why did he lawyer up immediately? Why was the parent so restrained in cooperating with the police? Meanwhile, hundreds of volunteers and law enforcement continued to search the wilderness area where Gabby and Brian had been traveling. The FBI and other federal agencies became involved. The case became national. On September 19, the FBI issued an arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie, not for murder, but for fraud. Specifically, they said that he had used Gabby's bank account and credit card and went missing. This was the first concrete criminal charge, and it triggered a massive manhunt. But finding Brian proved difficult. His parents claimed that he had gone hiking and near the wilderness area, but his exact location remained unknown. He had vanished into nature, leaving behind only questions and suspicions. On September 19, 2021, investigators made a discovery that would change everything. A body was found in Bridgerton National Forest near the Jackson Hole, Wyoming, in an area where Gabby and Brian had camped just days before. This discovery made in a remote tent site, partially concealed in a location that searchers had been combing through methodologically. The body was later confirmed that it was that of Gabrielle Venora Petito. For her family, it was a moment that had both dreaded and anticipated. They hoped that Gabby might still be found alive. that she was and might return home, and it could finally be a misunderstanding, all of that, and dissolve in an instant. Law enforcement began a full homicide investigation. The medical examiner conducted autopsy, but it was found that it was disturbing. Gabby had been murdered and strangled. The manner of death was homicide. The coroner estimated that he had been dead approximately for 3 to 4 weeks, meaning that she had been killed in the early September, likely within the days of her being last seen. The exact date was determined to be September 8th. The days before the last, she was confirmed in her sightseeing at the restaurant. Now, law enforcement had a clear picture. Gabby had been murdered in Wyoming, likely someone she knew, someone she trusted, the man she had been traveling with, the man who had driven her van back to Florida while laid dead in the wilderness. The search for Brian intensified. The manhunt became one of the largest in recent American history. His face was on every news channel. Thousands of tips came in. People claimed to have seen him everywhere, from Louisiana down to Canada border, but none of the sightseeing were confirmed. 3 weeks after the discovery of Gabby's body, on October 20, 2021, Brian Laundrie parents led authority to a location in Carlton Reserve, a vast swamped wilderness area near their home in Florida. The investigators found the remains of Brian Laundrie. He had been dead by suicide. A revolver was found near his remains. He had shot himself while fleeing from authorities. The death appeared to be or have occurred weeks earlier, meaning that he had likely been hiding in the swamp for an extended period after returning to Florida. In his backpack, authorities discovered a notebook. The notebook contained a confession. Brian wrote that he had killed Gabby. He described what had happened in his own words. The notebook was sealed by the Department of Justice and was never released to the public, meaning the exact details of the confession and its motives and the state remained unknown till this day, and as questions remain unanswered. The Gabby Petito case has been closed legally. Brian Laundrie is dead. The official cause of death is homicide by strangulation. The FBI concluded that Brian Laundrie was responsible for her death, but for those who loved Gabby and millions of followers that followed the case, and still unanswered question: what exactly happened that night? What did Brian write in the notebook? What was truly the crime and the passion for it? Sometimes, or more calculated, what were the motivations? Did Gabby fight back? What was going through Brian's mind as he drove across country, knowing what he had done? Will we ever know? Brian Laundrie took the full truth to his grave. There were also difficult questions about the system that have failed her. Why, after the Moab incidents, Gabby was not offered as a victim resource or clear path to safety? Why did the police not take more aggressive action? Could intervention have saved her life? Her family had also grappled not only the devastating loss of their daughter and sister, but with the knowledge that a killer eluded ultimate justice, but criminal justice, that the justice of confronting the consequence of his action in the courtroom. Gabrielle Venora was 22 years old. She had already had a life ahead of her. She was creative, loving, and adventurous. She dreamt of exploring the world and sharing her experience with others. Those dreams were stolen from her. Her case captured the American attention, not just because of the mystery surrounding it, but because of the force used to confront the uncomfortable truth about the domestic violence, about the ways young women can be isolated and manipulated, and about the fragility of life. The Find Gabby movement brought unprecedented attention to the missing person case across country. It sparked conversation about domestic abuse, about victim advocacy, and about how to protect the vulnerable people. In many ways, Gabby's legacy had been one of them raising awareness and demanding for change. Her family had channeled their grief into action, establishing foundation in her name and helping missing people and those who flew from domestic violence. Gabby journey across America, which was meant to be an adventure of life, became a cautionary tale about the importance of recognizing warning signs, of seeking help, and of believing victim, and never be silent when you witness a harm. She's gone, but her story remains, and perhaps in remembering her, the circumstance of her death, we can work to ensure that young women do not share a tragic fate. Gabrielle Venora Petito deserves to be remembered not just as a victim, but as a young woman with dreams, with talent, and with a life that matters ahead. Rest in peace to her soul. If you're interested in stories like these and more, click the like button, share, and subscribe so you always get notifications. Thank you.